What's going on, everybody, and welcome back to the channel. My name is Haydxn, and today we have a very, very special video with a very special guest. We have none other than the only Samantha Scaffidi, aka Victoria from Terrifier. How are you doing today? And thank you so much for being here.
Oh, thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here. I'm doing great.
This is going to be so exciting. I have a few questions I definitely want to ask you, and that a lot of my friends in the horror community space are also curious about. So we're going to get into that. As you can tell, I'm a very big Terrifier fan. I've been a huge fan of the franchise since seeing the first movie a couple of years ago. And one of those reasons that I am such a big fan is because of Vicky. You know, Vicky is such a unique character. It's kind of apart from anything else I've seen in horror. And I think that one of the main reasons for that is just the overall look of Vicky. You know, yeah, you see monsters here and there, you see people in masks, but when do you see this lady whose face was eaten off by a maniac clown? You know,
Atrocious.
so
Atrocious.
could you could you tell me a little bit about the process of, the prosthetics and, everything that has to go on to get Vicky to be Vicky while you're filming these movies?
Yeah, well, it all starts with Damien Leone, whose background is, he's an amazing special effects makeup artist. And some people don't know. I think a lot of people know at this point, but he did all the designs, especially like in one and two, Terrifier 1 and 2. So Vicky and Art are his creations, and he's just one of the best. And then in the third movie, Vicky takes an even crazier iteration, and that was him teaming up with Christian Tinsley, who's a titan in the industry. He's Christian Tinsley Studio out in LA, and so we for the third film got to work with them. But yeah, the foundation is always Damien. Damien's like the genius. He's the one who comes up with this in his crazy mind. And yeah, and then yeah, the prosthetic process has always been, in the first two movies, I always thought it was like a lot simpler. I thought it was always challenging, and I realized it was a lot simpler in those days because it was like a 2-hour process just to do the makeup. And I had one eye, but I usually had a day or two just to film. So it was kind of like a little painful, but it was over pretty quickly. But the third one, it was a 6 to 8 hour process. We went beyond just the face. We did arms, we did legs. There was like layers of paint of just to make it look, like her skin is falling apart and blistering. And so that was a very extensive process. Very long days, but an amazing team in Christian Tinsley's team, which was Heather, who was my main makeup artist, and Ryan and Alana, who took care of me. But
That's awesome. 6 to 8 hours is crazy. I would have
yeah,
not. I mean, I know that there was probably a lot of time, but I wouldn't have assumed 6 or even 8 hours at a time.
it's brutal. It's always been. I mean, there are some people who don't mind it at all and can sit in a chair for like 12 hours, and I'm like, I'm ADHD, so I'm moving around. I'm suffering. My makeup team's suffering because they're like, please just sit still. Like,
Yeah.
but it is. But I mean, I think during it, I blacked out all that. Now I'm like, it was great, and I see her, and I love, like, my favorite images of her are her in the bathroom, in the scene in the
Yeah.
bathtub, and or even just in the attic. Like, I really love that look specifically. So it makes it all worth it.
Speaking of favorite looks of Vicky, my favorite look that we've gotten so far of this character is when she was actually kind of like a mirror of Art the Clown. You know, the black and white outfit,
Mhm.
the face paint at the end of Terrifier 3. That was really cool to see. And it was really cool for me because one of the things that I kind of was upset about after watching Terrifier 2 was the lack of Vicky. So seeing that
Oh, you're
not
nice.
only was she well, you know,
Yeah.
seeing that not only she has a lot larger like of a role in this movie, and then on top of that she has this crazy look where she's all painted up and dressed up like Art the Clown. It was such a cool look to me, even down to the details like the little ornaments as like the balls on that
Yeah.
outfit. That's so cool to
That's
me.
Olga Turka and her team. Olga did costumes, she did production design, she did all of art, and she had an amazing team. But it's
Mhm.
all those little delicate touches, that, well, when working, of course, with Damien. I don't know the extent of their collaboration, but I just the attention to detail of that collaboration between Olga and Damien was just so good. It's just, there's so many details that people don't even know unless always speaks about it, that are, hidden in
Yeah.
clothing and in scenes and in backgrounds. So yeah, it's
So
cool. Yeah.
the so we know the character Vicky is obviously very gruesome, very grotesque, a very evil person. Do you find it hard sometimes being able to get in the right mindset to portray such an evil character?
I wish I was like, yeah, it's really brutal, but it's actually no. I had a lot of fun. I did make a point, because usually when I act, I'm always looking for some like key to the character that I'm playing. I'm always trying to figure out, okay, what is the thing that unlocks this person, or something that I can anchor myself in, just to make it grounded and to make it real. But I think with Vicky, well, the iteration of Vicky. So I have to make this distinction. There's Victoria Hayes, and then there's the moment Victoria Hayes leaves the body, and then there's this entity of the little pale
Mhm.
girl that exists inside of Victoria's physical body. She becomes a vessel. Um, and the one beautiful thing about the second iteration is that she's evil. It's black and white. There is
Mhm.
no nuance. There is no backstory. There is no, oh, this happened. And there's this, she's just pure evil and mean. And she's fun. She's outrageous. But that was fun because it was black and white, and I could just push it, and I made it a point, because I know that you can start getting into, like, the method of it, and trying to really get into that headspace. What would that be like? And for this, I was like, she's just evil. She wouldn't even have to go that deep. It's just who she
Okay.
is. So for me, it was fun to just play.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
once, and I think, like, the prosthetics, which is something we were talking about, is once you put it on, it's like a leather jacket, right? And I always use this, like, analogy, but it's like you put it on, you feel like a sense of cool, or whatever it is.
Mhm.
If you have a t-shirt or a pair of boots that you put on, and there's like an energy shift, those prosthetics do so much of that for you. So there was a lot of preparation that I did to prepare myself, which is always the work. Um, but in terms of headspace, I didn't want to go too far. I just wanted to show up to set with all the work that I had done, and just be present with the actors, and play with them, fuck with them,
Yeah.
whatever I could do
Yeah.
to, so no,
So
it was actually, I had a lot of fun playing the villain. So
so Vicky is kind of your way of being able to, just mess around or even let out any frustration or
like
anything.
exercise my demons, literally.
Yeah. Yeah.
Maybe. I mean,
Exercise your
it's
demon with the
funny.
demon. Yeah.
Maybe, because I don't feel like I'm a mean person in real life. Like, I would be, but I feel like there must be somewhere inside of me, from some experiences, that need to, like, just let some steam off, where I haven't
Yeah.
processed it. So Vicky's like a little channel of that. Yeah.
So since it's not hard for you to, I guess, completely get in character, like you said, has there ever been a moment where you've struggled staying in character? Like maybe something funny's going on, or
Oh
maybe
yeah.
something's just not clicking right. Has there been moments like that on set?
Oh yeah, 100%. I love that you asked that, because no one ever asked that. But yeah, yeah, definitely. I mean, we were in the first movie. In the first movie with Terrifier, we were such a small crew, and we did not have duplicates, triples of things, like, so
Mhm.
if for the plastic bag that went over my face, we only had like two or three of those bags, which is weird, 'cause it's a plastic bag, but we only had two or three. And the first time we did it, I ripped it off and was like, and we didn't get the shot. And then I had like one more shot to do it. So, like, we were working with not a lot. But the final scene where David is like over me, about to eat my face.
Uh-huh.
At that point, David and I had gotten to know each other. We all had gotten to know each other, and we were just goofing around a lot of the time, just to, like, pass the time. Since it was such a small crew, we'd have so much time on our hand, that David was over me, and I could not stop laughing. I was like, fucking David Howard Thornton, you are over me. You're breathing down my neck. I have blood in my mouth that Damien has to, like, put in. They have to, like, call action. Then I have to wait for the moment of him to come down. So I have just, like, and then when you're laying down like that and you have blood in your mouth, it,
Mhm.
it can go back into your throat. So I'm
Yeah.
trying so hard to, like, hold the blood in my mouth, not to laugh because David's in my face. I don't know what it was about David, but him just, like, coming up in character was just very hilarious. Um, but there's, like, lots of moments like that. I mean, I think with the third film, there was a lot of things were technical, and in that final sequence, there's a lot happening, and also safety wise, you want to make sure you're not like, because poor Lauren was like strapped down into a chair,
Uh,
and we've got to hit her and we've got to pull her, and Lauren's like
yeah.
game for it, but I'm a little bit more sensitive. I don't
Uh,
want to like hurt her. So that we were pretty dialed in, but there's a lot of like little things of laughter that happen all the time. And then David's like, "Come on, guys," but then he's also laughing himself. So
yeah, yeah.
um,
I can imagine with you guys, it's hard to
oh, it's ridiculous.
stay in character all the time. At least it's got to be
No,
impossible.
you should see us at Q&As. We were doing we do Q&A when we were going around with the film,
Mhm.
or when we were doing conventions. We just can't stop laughing, and sometimes we'll like say the dumbest thing. Like there's I don't think many people know this, but it was right around the time they were pitting Terrifier against the Joker.
Mhm.
And so I was covered in shit, not really shit, but like, all that stuff in the bathroom scene. And I
Yeah.
remember I was like telling Damien about caca, which in Spanish means shit or poop. I know it because my nephews are Spanish, my sister-in-law is Spanish, and my partner's Spanish. So I know very much like, I was just like telling him some story about caca. Um, and Damien's like, "Oh, Lady Caca," he was he just was like, he's like, "Oh," and it just became this weird like inside joke. And we were on stage in Sitges, which is a film festival in Barcelona, outside of Barcelona, in Sitges.
Mhm.
It's an amazing festival, and we were doing a talk on stage where um, oh, they were asking about prosthetics and production design, and Olga was there with us, so we all kind of knew the inside joke. But we're all speaking in English, and most people speak Spanish there, and they would translate. But at one point, like somehow Kaka came up, and it was Damien or me, and I was like Kaka, and we just start laughing. And obviously, we had a microphone, so they heard the word Kaka, but they probably didn't know
Yeah.
relation to what. So it's like things like that where we're like probably not supposed to be making jokes and laughing and taking the piss out of each other. We don't have filters really, so
That's awesome, and
yeah.
those are the best funny moments when you don't need to be funny, but,
Yeah,
it happens and you just can't control yourself. Those are the best.
yeah.
Those are
People
the
are like looking for serious answers, and we're like, I'm sorry, but I just have
Yeah.
to. But to make those are all the funny moments. But there was one line specifically in Terrifier 3 that I didn't feel right.
Mhm.
Um, every time I delivered it, I didn't think I did it, but David's like, we already got it. It was the did you wrap this yourself? Shitty job.
Shitty
Yeah.
job.
So I was like, Damien, I don't know if that's working. And everyone's like, it sounds great. And then he's like, if you want one more, you can have one more. And I was like, okay, just one more. And then I finished it. And I was like, I just don't think the timing's there. And then now I laugh, and it always gets a laugh over the theater. So that's a relief. But that line was
Yeah.
always a little difficult.
Terrifier 3, it came out on, the physical release yesterday, so the DVDs, the
Mm.
Blu-rays, everything. I went and I picked a couple up, and I took one to my parents' house, and I watched one with my dad because this is like what we bond over. Like, this is our thing,
That's
Terrifier.
amazing. Yeah.
And, like you just said, did you wrap this yourself? We cracked up. We crack up
That's so
every
good.
time we hear it. See, a lot of things in that scene, like, even that line, or, Art walking past and just slapping Sienna in the back of the head.
I
We
always
just
when
not
people say
control
that when people say that scene, I always make people they're like, you see it like 3 or 4 times, but Lauren got hit like had to be like 20 plus times.
it. Really?
Yeah, of course, because we like have to keep going and going. And Lauren is I always like love on Lauren because I think she's the most talented, most professional. Just like every time I watch her, I'm like, whether in person or on like yesterday, actually, we did a screening in upstate New York, and I watched her again, and I just was like in awe. But Lauren had bruises all over her body because like she would literally rip herself out of the tape, and then every time David would hit her, and even if it was a fake thing, you have to like in film, you really sometimes like emotionally you have to do less, but when you're
Mhm.
doing physical things in horror, you have to do more. So like we're really like whipping each other and hitting each other with these
Yeah.
like props, and after a while you hit the same spot. It's so she's gotten
Yeah.
yeah. So just to add to that. It's brutal.
That is incredible. That is incredible. So Terrifier 3, obviously the biggest and the most pushed for Terrifier movie that we have gotten so far. Obviously, a lot of things have changed since the original Terrifier. And, I'm not going to ask you, did you see yourself being, this big or this successful? Because obviously I'm sure you had confidence in yourself and in your crew and in the team. But did you actually see it going as far as it is going with the Terrifier franchise?
Well, well, I did have. I listen when we first shot Terrifier. I remember being like, Dave, like we had no money and it was no one, and I literally read that script and I say this all the time. I read it and I was like, oh my god, I can't do this. It's so violent. Like, and because
Uh-huh.
I always make the point because Damien made it recently. You don't read art off the page. Like you have to see him with him and David and what they do with Art the Clown. But if you don't know Art the Clown, when you're reading a script for the first time, it just feels like pure sadism, just like violence. And Damien like writes it all out. The one thing he didn't write out was the glass scene with the masturbating.
Yeah.
He was like, I always say this. He wrote, "Taste will be tastefully done," but he didn't like go through the motions of like what the motions were. But usually that's the script. So I was like, no one's gonna see this. No one's gonna see it. It's a horror. There's no money. Like I didn't get what it was really.
Mhm.
And then I saw it for the first time and I was like, holy shit, Damien Leone, like how the hell did you make that? Every time I see the films, I'm like, how is that what came out? And I know why. Damien and the team behind it is unbelievable and I totally trust him. But to see it coming this far, no. And I think even if at that point you know who Damien is, you know what Art the Clown is, you know who Lauren is, you know who all these amazing cast and crew are that bring such artistry to the franchise. To get as far as it's gotten, whether it's almost at 100 million, like unrated, like top unrated in history, that's a level that like no one can ever and competing with the Joker. Like
Yeah.
it's
Insane.
that stuff's like just some magic, some Damien called it like lightning in a bottle we have right now, but it's kind of wild.
Well, it's I first seen the original Terrifier. It was years ago. I don't even remember what it was on. Maybe like Netflix or something. I really can't remember. But I remember watching it for the first time, and I was like, "Whoa! Like this is
Hardcore.
pretty sick. This is pretty cool." And I'd kind of forgotten about
Mm,
Terrifier for like another maybe year or two after that.
mm,
And then I saw it pop up again, and I was like, "Okay, well, I want to watch this." And then I watched that, and then Terrifier 2 was coming out, not
mm,
long after. And so I didn't get to see, everybody just kind of bantering for it to build and build and build, but I was kind
mm.
of able to hop back on the train right before it skyrocketed again. And
Yeah.
so being able to see this as a fan, and then you see like all this new merch that's coming out, you see people advocating for even more, movies or documentaries,
Mm,
whatever it is. It's just so cool to see. And it's
yeah.
after seeing Terrifier, it's not even close to anything else. Like you guys clearly deserve this so much. It's actually
I'm
incredible.
so happy that because I agree that I won't include me in it because that's weird. I deserve it. But the team and Damien and everyone, they've worked so hard and they're so to this day, even after all this success, so humble and so grounded and so like they really are like people who care and true artists. And especially like, see Damien and Phil and George who were from day one, just like Phil, who's the producer, George is the DP, and Damien, of course, is Damien. But um, to see it have such success is so because Damien's lived with this thing for over a decade. I mean, much more than a decade, and he's really believed in it, and he's turned down offers left and right to make his life a little easier, just to stay true to the vision and to keep the team together. Because I know that if he would have went certain routes, they might have wanted to recast it, read this. It would have definitely diluted his
Mhm.
vision, and even just Art the Clown. And he spent the last couple of years because after two, it did well in the theaters. It did 15 million. That was really great for a
Yeah.
$250,000 movie that no one heard of.
Mhm.
And so for him to get offer straight out the gate and then not and then suffer for another 2 years to
Yeah.
get this out. It just makes me really happy to know. It feels like sometimes you're like, oh, that's wrong in the universe, and then this is like something was right, something that was done right. So
Yeah.
yeah.
So we're talking about, the creative genius of Damien Leone, everything that he's been capable of, pulling together with you guys on set. Did you know how good this guy was when it comes to, effects or even just writing out these stories? Did you have any idea before you were actually able to see it in motion and be like, whoa, like this is insane?
I mean, no, of course, when you're first meeting someone, we were all young when we started out. We've all grown with the franchise, all rightfully so in our crafts, right? So like David as a director, as a writer, me as an actor, and everyone else, and so and so forth. So, I met Damien about a decade ago, and I mean, I was blown away that this person was going to direct, but he also was a special effects person. But I also, to be completely honest, like I didn't really know much about special effects. Um, I didn't have an appreciation. I didn't know what to look for. And then when I met Damien and I saw it firsthand, like, where I was actually like in the room and they were doing all this stuff, and I was just like, whoa, like this is a whole other art form that's like hard to look at, but also mesmerizing and beautiful, even in its like nastiness.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, but it really is like you could see the love. Like Damien's like even on 3, he would sometimes come over while we were doing makeup and just like, we were like, "Get away, Damien. You have a team now," but he just not because he loves it so much. It's like his happy space. But
Yeah.
but yeah, I didn't know. I didn't know what it was going to become until we sat in the theater and saw it because it played at it was I don't remember exactly what the little weekend festival was, but it played in Lincoln Center in one of the theaters, so we were able as a cast and crew and bring some family members to see it.
Mhm.
So that's when I first saw Terrifier, and I was like, "Whoa, wow!" Like, wow, and that was like 10 years ago, and
Yeah.
now I'm like, there's like I knew on 2, and I definitely knew on 3. There's nothing that Damien would ask me to do that I wouldn't be willing to do. Like
Mhm.
there's nothing like if even if the scene because a lot of people ask me if it's uncomfortable when I read certain scenes, you know, do I have reservations? And I'm like, maybe if it was someone else, but with Damien, I'm just like, let's do it. Let's go.
Yeah.
Because he's a genius. He's a hard worker. He fucking cares. And he really has like this talent. Like he's watching you, he's directing you, he's editing it in his head, he's thinking about the sound design, he's thinking about the composition. Like he's doing all that at once while he's there. And he doesn't even look like he is. He's not like walking around being like, like doing
Yeah.
this.
Yeah.
He's just like, he's just in his own little.
The gears
Sometimes
will
he looks like he's asleep, but he's doing it. He's like,
That's incredible. That's incredible.
oh,
It's, like I said, obviously you guys share crazy bonds. This has to be such a close kept, just bonding experience for all of you guys to share, the actors, the crew, everybody that's involved in doing
mm.
all of this. Is there a favorite memory that you have out of any of the Terrifier movies? Whether it's something that, was obviously hilarious, which you've already touched on, or something that you're just so proud of that you were able to do in a scene?
Oh man, that's a really good question. Um, well, one I always distinctly I'll do one from I'll do like a 1, 2, and 3 really quickly.
Okay.
One, I always remember I'm just gonna go what if I remember it after 10 years, that means it must have been special, but I always remember
Yeah.
us, like, riding around the bikes.
Yeah.
There's a little BTS that I'm like, "Where did these people get this BTS?" But, where I was videoing David on the little bike while we were waiting, and he was singing "Back to School." I don't know, was he singing "Back to School"? Oh, I want to ride my bicycle is what he was singing. Okay. So he was singing that, and then Damien took a turn, and then I took a turn, and it was just like this very like this very innocent time, where it was
Yeah.
just a few of us and yeah, it was like low stakes, we were just
Mhm.
having a good time. We were nowhere else thinking about, oh God, how is this gonna do? And then 2, I got to work with Chris Jericho, and that was awesome, and that was I grew up watching WWF before it was WWE, and
Okay.
yeah, so
I got
I grew up with, when my brother and I used to
Mhm.
wrestle, pretend to be, whatever in the house. So I knew who Chris Jericho was, and he ended up being such a lovely person to work with, really awesome, really kind, professional, and yeah, so that was a really cool experience. And then three three was a tough one. Three was we had more money, but I would say that just because more money, it sometimes means more problems. And
Mhm.
um, three was tough with the prosthetics because I basically was in the prosthetic chair from the moment I got to set and then the moment I left, unless I was filming, just because of
Yeah.
you have to go through it, then you're filming, and then you got to go do touch ups
Mhm.
and all that stuff. So, but I do have fond memories of us probably all getting way too high on chemicals because we didn't have probably the proper ventilation. But because of all the fumes that go in. But no, I think collectively it would be in those rooms. But working with also in that final scene with Lauren is I definitely, and David was a highlight. I think
Yeah.
for three there wasn't a specific moment, but it was working with those two specifically, and then the other cast members as well who are amazing. But I just love,
Mhm.
I just Dave and Lauren. I had a very specific moments with,
Yeah.
uh, which were really awesome. So
That's awesome. It's so cool to hear, stuff that I wouldn't know by just watching the movie, obviously.
yeah,
I have to ask this just for personal reasons because I'm a
yeah.
huge wrestling fan. Who is your favorite wrestler of all time? I have to ask that.
Okay, this is hard because I was really young and I loved Lita. I loved
Okay.
Lita and the Hardy Boys. That was, but I also liked I like Stone Cold Steve Austin too. Like I was like of that weird era, but I was
Um,
also, how old was I? Oh man, I was like young. I was young when I was watching wrestling. I must have been in my, like early teens or even younger than 10. But I think I like Lita because she was like a tomboy, and if I felt she was. I was projecting on her because I was a
uh,
tomboy. I had two older brothers, and I played sports. But of all time, I don't know. That's a hard question because I mean, there's probably certain skill levels and things to base that off of.
that's
But
fair.
but off
That's
of my childhood, like, and also seeing a woman, I think as
yeah,
well.
yeah.
Well, also because I just realized she was a woman with two men,
Hmm.
and I was one of three. I was one of three, and two of them were two brothers. So I probably
Okay.
saw some weird connection.
Yeah, yeah. You definitely saw a connection there.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
definitely
yeah,
saw a
yeah.
connection.
Yeah.
Apart from that,
Wait,
another
what's
question
your
that
favorite? I want to know who's yours?
my all-time favorite is The Undertaker.
Oh yeah, yeah,
Mhm.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Of course. I
The
think he probably
Undertaker.
scared the shit out of me when I was younger.
Yeah. See, which is crazy because, apparently I was a little bit too young to remember, but
Mm,
I guess that we had gone to an event, me and my dad,
mm,
and The Undertaker was my all-time favorite, but
mm.
apparently when the bell hit and the lights went off when he was coming out, I
You're
was
scared.
terrified, and I did
Oh,
not
well, of
wanna
course, though.
go. So, I mean, going from
If the
being my
lights went
favorite.
off and then that shit started coming on and he came out, I'd be like, no, 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 we're not safe.
Yeah, but yeah, The Undertaker, that's my guy. That's
Oh, that's
100%
awesome. Yeah,
my
yeah, yeah.
favorite. The another question that I did have that I wanna ask because my brain races so much, I don't wanna forget this. Is there any props or items that you were able to take home from any of the sets that you like to have for your, I guess, personal collection?
Did I steal anything you're asking? I don't know if you can get me on
I didn't
record.
use the word steal, but if you
Well, I'm
saw
just saying because you're
something.
not supposed to take anything. No, there was we had multiples of teeth and nails
Mhm.
for Vicky because I couldn't take the outfits. I tried to take there was a insane asylum outfit like in the second one I tried to, well, actually, sorry, there when we shot the second film there was a scene we had to reshoot. I don't know if you know this. We reshot the final scene with Chris Jericho.
I don't think
Yeah.
so.
Okay, so here's a fun fact. We shot a scene in which Art the Clown was supposed to come out of the back of my head.
Okay.
So we shot that, and that was the end. And if that was to happen, Vicky would be dead, dead, dead.
Yeah.
Um, then *Malignant* came out, and that
Really?
was almost identical to whatever was Damien. I hadn't seen what Damien was gonna do, but it was very
Um,
strangely like, and Damien's like, we have to. So thank God for *Malignant*.
whoa.
And then all of a sudden they came up with the birthing scene. So we came back to reshoot that. But there was a jumpsuit that I tried to steal, and they ended up taking it back. But I didn't end up wearing the jumpsuit because it turned into like a smock.
Yeah.
Um, but in the third, I had teeth that the teeth were pretty intense and really difficult to talk in. But I'd have to like over enunciate, and there was a few times where I would be in the middle of screaming, and the teeth would I clamp down and they would break.
Oh.
So I was like, did my teeth break? So I took a pair of those and some nails, and one of the pop-in eyes that
Okay.
we didn't end up using. So I have like a few things. And I've
Oh,
saved some of the, because when you take off the mask, if you do it right, and you don't rip it off like me sometimes, which you're not supposed to do, my mask actually comes out almost perfectly. So I have
whoa.
a few of the with the dates and the days that we shot on. I have a few of my actual prosthetic.
That's awesome.
No,
That's
I only a few people know that.
I got you. I
Now
got
everyone knows. It's fine, but
you.
they'll be knocking down my door to get them back. But it's like
So were you a big fan of horror at all before signing on for the first Terrifier movie?
no, and I say that because when I was younger, I have a very active imagination, and if I watch something, the light will be on.
Mhm.
I feel like in life I'm pretty good, but like for some reason with horror, with certain types of horror, I always was a bit of a baby. But when I was younger, I watched horror because if I was with friends or I had a boyfriend or a guy I liked at the time, I was like, oh yeah, put the horror film on, and get scared and play that little game. But
Uh,
but I never got into it because my family wasn't into horror. They were, I always say, very New York Italian, very Goodfellas, My Cousin Vinny, Godfather, like,
gotcha.
there's so many, but anything with Pacino, anything with De Niro, like, and or oh my God, Tombstone, like very different types of films. So I didn't get into it, and then I would say that once I started working in the Terrifier franchise, I started meeting fans and even knowing Damien and meeting fellow actors and Catherine and Jenna and people who really love and know horror. I've kind of like caught the bug from them.
I got
And then I think going to conventions and meeting fans of the franchise, I've been asking lots of questions because I'm always like, why the fuck do you like this movie? Like, it's so bloody, it's so violent. And then they tell me, and some of the answers are so simple in the most beautiful way. And then some of them are so deep and exposing and courageous. And it's really made
Mhm.
me start to like explore it myself. And now I'm just like, I love it. I'm definitely like a big horror fan now. I'm starting to a list that I have to watch everything.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. I'm more of
Out
a
of
psychological horror person though, usually, but now I'm getting into I'm going back to Texas
um,
Chainsaw Massacre.
yeah, I'm definitely more of a slasher guy when it comes to
So
horror movies. I
what's your
definitely
top?
want to see, my
What's your
top
top?
horror movie.
Yeah, well, I'll give you a few, I'll give you five. Five. What are your top? If you're like, okay, you getting into horror, these are the five.
Okay, well,
Start. Just start.
getting into horror, I'm not going to recommend Terrifier. Okay, I say you should probably,
I don't usually recommend it, unless someone's like, I love blood and I love guts.
yeah, yeah, then
Parents fall
maybe.
behind.
But
Yeah.
the original Halloween,
Mm-hmm.
um, Child's Play 2,
Mm-hmm.
the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre,
Okay.
um,
Yeah, saw that one. Saw Halloween. I might have seen Child's Play. I might not have, so I will.
yeah, Child's Play 2 is up
Chucky,
there
right?
for yeah, yeah, yeah.
Chucky
It's
scares
up
the
there
shit.
for
Chucky used to scare the shit out of me. I don't
I
know why, but like
it does
dolls,
everybody. I
like
think it does
coming to life, I just was
everybody.
like, I was convinced my toys were gonna come to life.
Yeah, yeah. See a shadow in the corner of your room, you're like, oh shit.
Yeah. No, I'm like, I'm done. Yeah, and then I would hide under my covers, which would do nothing. But yeah.
Yeah, absolutely nothing.
Okay, so Child's
Um,
Play, Halloween, Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
uh, the original Nightmare on Elm Street's a really good
Okay,
one,
I saw that. That scared the
and
shit out of me.
I'm I feel like I'm blanking. I feel like I'm blanking.
I always blank when people ask me. I'm like, I always say like the same ones, but I know there are other ones that I absolutely was like freaked out by and loved. But I didn't even know this, like that the Silence of the Lambs was considered a horror.
That I
Like
mean, I guess.
I like did I asked and people were like that's a horror and I'm like really,
I guess so. I
but
mean,
it's
I
more
guess
like
there's
crime
definitely aspects.
thriller. Yeah,
Yeah, more just a thriller, you know.
yeah,
But I mean,
yeah.
that is a really good movie, though. It's a
That's
really
great.
good movie.
That's great. It's like perfect. It's
Um,
perfect to me. Yeah.
I can't think of a
If it
better
comes to you, you can
yeah.
we'll re-enter the conversation under that question.
Yeah, well, it's hard because, obviously the Terrifier franchise has very easily become my favorite horror movies ever. Out of
Oh,
anything I've ever seen from growing up watching horror to today, the Terrifier
mm,
movies easily just top everything else because they're so unique. Like I
mm,
said, I'm so lucky to be able to bond with them, like with my father. We have a very
mm.
strong bond over just the Terrifier
That's
movies.
so awesome. Yeah.
So it's kind of a personal thing, but then again, it's kind of just like this shit's sick, like
I love that though because I've met so many people who have that same like mothers and daughters, fathers and daughters, mothers
mm,
and sons, like all the whole the families. Like I've seen so many people come together over it. I'm just like that's really cool.
yeah.
I've also the youngest person I've ever met that watched a Terrifier movie was just guess.
I don't know. There's a lot of
Just
crazy stories I've read, but hopefully
three.
nobody under 10. 3.
Three, and I met the kid. I met at the convention. Didn't want anything. It was like, nah. She's like, we're just sitting there reading. But like, yeah, she loves it. Doesn't bother her. And I was like, oh my god,
Wow.
it's so adorable. By the way, the parents were so nice. But
Yeah.
they said that like, I guess they'll have it on, and she like came into the room, or and she like, I guess, but I guess earlier than that, I would be questioning whether they're really watching it because they're too young.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, 3 was the youngest I
Oh,
had
that's
ever
awesome.
met.
That's
It's
awesome.
wild.
I can't say too much. I'm pretty sure I was probably around that age as well when my dad was
Damien
introduced.
too. Damien was like, I think under 14 people shouldn't see it, though I was watching movies at 4
Yeah.
and he turned out fine. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Even though a lot of people question how in the hell he comes up with half this stuff that he writes for the
He's
movie.
funny though, because he'll be like, people are like, how did he come up with this? It's sick. And then I'm like, and then Damien will openly be like, but I always take it 10 steps further. Like, yeah, and then I pull it back. And everyone's like, well, what's the line then? Like, how far is he going that he's like, no, no.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I mean, there's a lot of crazy scenes. We have the hacksaw scene from the original. We have the
Mhm.
bedroom scene from Terrifier 2. Obviously, now the shower scene, and then the rat scene at the end, which, by the way, is freaking disgusting,
I
man.
know people are. It's funny. 3 is hard because I feel like for the first 2 movies, you're like this one and then this one, and then like the
uh,
scenes. And in this film, people are like, it's the rat scene, it's the shower scene, but then some people are like, it's you masturbating with the shard of glass. So I'm like, I'm glad that people are disturbed by that. I'm like,
yeah,
so it's actually a toss up. It just depends on I guess someone's ick. But the good thing is there's a lot of ick happening in 3.
so much because, like you
Yeah.
said, it's usually easy to just pinpoint, this scene. But in 3, we had so many. We had so many just
Yeah.
gross
Yeah.
scenes. Even you and Chris Jericho and Art back in the asylum, before you guys get out, even that scene's pretty gross, and it's
Oh yeah, with the eating of the face and then me sucking
eating,
on
and then
the
you're eating the cord or whatever you got going on. It's so
I
disgusting.
swear to God, I have been like, I think about all this stuff and I'm like, I mean, Lauren takes a beating. Like Lauren
Uh-huh.
takes a beating. And I know like Casey was just like, everyone's taken a beating in their respective scenes. But Damien loves having me eat things. He loves like submerging me in filth. Like it's just like it only gets worse and worse as the films go on. And I'm like, we there's there's so many moments I remember. Someone captured it once where he was like spraying me because I would basically we'd be doing a film and I would dry up,
Uh-huh.
and then Damien would have to come and spray me. And it would be cold water. So and I'd be like, "Fuck you," and I'd do that to him, and he would just be like, "I'm sorry." Um, but yeah, it just seems to get worse and worse and worse. But with Vicky with eating things in that cord. But yeah, it's been they're pretty brutal scenes. And I just don't know where I'm just like excited to see as like a now fan of the series and of all the artists involved, like where it goes and what he comes up with. Because I'm like, where do you go? Like
See, I
how do
don't know
you?
how much farther you can go after
Yeah,
everything. See, I didn't think originally you could go farther than a hacksaw scene, but you make it happen, and then the bedroom scene, but then you still somehow make it happen. It's
yeah.
just it's so insane to just
I'm
see
also
this.
like, no one seems to cancel us yet, with all the. I mean, kids do die in other films. Like, it's not that I just watched
Yeah,
The
yeah.
Lurks. There was something that was very disturbing in that, and I watched the TV show From, and there was some disturbing imagery in that with kids. But so it's not like it's like. But I'm sometimes I'm surprised in the nature in which certain people get killed that we're not like. But it's a horror. It's a
I think
slasher.
it's just so just showing how strong the fan base is because I feel like you guys can do just about anything now, and we're gonna be like, hell yeah, do it again. It's
Literally. Like, oh, it's this Terrifier, guys,
it's just Terrifier. I mean,
Yeah, they're all fucking crazy anyway. Let them go do what they want.
yeah, no, I think the fan base has grown to an extent where I don't know if you can cancel any of the Terrifier movies. It's so insane. And then something that I go back on that maybe a lot of people that haven't watched All Hallows Eve before
Mm,
Terrifier, maybe they don't know. Kids die in that one, and it's something
yeah.
that art was shown doing. Not the act of it, I guess, but you see what happens.
Yeah.
So for me, seeing the first scene, I was like, okay. But people, I guess, outside of the realm who have maybe just
Mm.
started watching, after Terrifier 2 or whatever, they're like, yeah, maybe that's a little far. So I guess it's
Yeah,
it's
some
kind of
people did. Some people did. I mean, some people do really like it's I don't actually, you know what? I'm a little bit ignorant because I don't read comments. I don't scour the internet. And I do know people always ask like about specifically people commenting about Damien and speaking about his character. And I just don't see that stuff because I'm not looking. But I
Mhm.
do know that there's, that growing like, oh, these people are sick and there's something wrong with them. This is just like
Yeah.
torture porn and and yeah, and there always is gonna be that because like I think also nowadays we live in a culture where people make decisions almost immediately without
Mm.
based off a headline or based off an image. No one goes like really further to really investigate themselves. Um, so I understand, but I say they're lost because there is a lot of artistry and there's a lot of depth in all this, and
Yeah.
yeah, there is definitely that there is a lot of people where I'm like, you got to know that when you're coming to see a Terrifier film, what you're getting into at this point.
Yeah.
Like, guys, look at the posters. I'm like, everything.
Even the posters, just take a look and you're like, okay,
Or
maybe
the memes that are
be
viral,
crazy.
It's like all the memes of people getting, yeah. But
It's just so but I guess the curiosity factor is what adds a lot for people wanting to see this as well. Because the second time I went to see Terrifier 3, I went to see it in the movies. The second time I went, I had a group of people in front of me. It was my girlfriend and I, and they
mm-mm.
all held each other's hands and prayed, and they were like, "We're sorry for what we're about to watch."
Wait, are
But
you serious?
I'm so serious.
That's brilliant. Oh my
Right
God.
in front of us, and my girlfriend and I, we were like, "Whoa!" Like,
Did they
this
leave?
is
Did they
pretty
walk
big.
out?
They didn't walk out. They watched it. They watched the entire thing. They
They fucking
held
loved it.
hands. They prayed. They said they're sorry for what they're about to watch.
They were doing this when they got home. They were what's the oh my God, because it's because it's funny. I brought my three of my girlfriends to the theater, and they're not horror fans. They don't like blood and guts. But I was like, it's an event film, so like either you're curious or you're a fan, or now you know what they are, and it's an experience to have with
Yeah,
people, in the theater. And I was just having I cover my eyes during a lot of the blood and guts, even though I've been in the scenes.
yeah.
But one of my friends who I thought was going to have a really difficult time was actually watching it and laughing, and I was like, "That's interesting."
Wow.
Like you learn things about people. but they would never be caught dead in a theater. And I had friends who messaged me and said, "Oh, going to see Terrifier," and I'm like, if they're seeing it, then that's wild because this is not
Yeah.
their thing. But I think there's something to be said about it being like a curiosity, and then also now like an experience to be had with people.
Yeah, because and heavy on the experience part. It's
Yeah.
me and my dad or me and my girlfriend, we still sometimes sit and we're like, "You remember that scene where so and so?" And we're like, "Yeah, that was crazy." And
Oh man.
it's just so cool to be able to just be in this timeline where we're able to all experience this together. And
And to
it's
have
just
that feeling,
yeah,
like
have the
you
feeling.
yeah, because we're going to the theater to feel something, I think, like without realizing it, whether it's emotion, sadness, or it's just like a safe environment, a safe space where you can go and just have a human experience without
Mhm.
the repercussions. And whether it's, a violent film or an emotional film or, so for a film to actually make you, I have become so addicted to watching people watch these films because there's something really amazing about seeing how excited they get, and also how I've seen people walk out. I've seen
Uh-huh.
people come out at the end with big smiles on their faces and going, "Oh my god, that was the most fun I've had in so long." And that becomes so addictive to see an experience that you're like, "I want to keep doing that."
Yeah.
How do we keep getting people to have that joy?
Yeah, it's awesome to see other people's reactions.
Mm,
it's just such a unique feeling. Like I keep saying, watching these Terrifier movies, like there's nothing next to it at all, out of
mm,
anything I've ever seen.
mm.
And it's just I don't know, words can't explain. Like these movies just mean
No,
so much to me. They
I
mean so
tried
much.
so hard to get people to like explicitly say it, and I don't know for myself either. I just know that my world feels like it's opened up in a lot of ways, being in relation to a lot of
Mhm.
people with these films and watching them. And yeah, they're fun. They're a lot of fun. They're funny, but also like Lauren Sienna, like she's fucking badass. Like she's just such an
Mhm.
awesome final girl. Like, and it's so moving to see her portray Sienna with such depth, and then to see other like I was in CHS again with the whole with like Damien and Lauren and Dave and Phil and all them, and we saw a little girl who was maybe like under 10 or maybe she's 11. She could have been around that age, but
Mhm.
she saw Lauren. She didn't speak English, but she was just crying. She was so excited.
Wow.
And I was just like, oh man, that's so beautiful. Like, cause
Yeah.
I even look up to Lauren. I'm like, damn, that's a badass. Like,
Yeah.
good on you. Like fucking, but to see that is also like, so it's all those things. It's all those feelings and experiences.
Yeah, so you're able to, I guess, grasp a lot of happiness and gratitude even outside of these movies, even seeing people's reactions, seeing how deeply this connects some people and how they're able to bond over it. And
Mm,
that's also something that is really good for you guys as well, because not only do you want to have fun while you're on set, while you're making these movies, but you want to be able to produce something that people are so ecstatic and so happy
yeah,
about that they're having these reactions. And like you said, we gotta continue to see where this is
yeah.
going.
Yeah. Well, we
It's
also, by the way, we're having fun on set, but we're also suffering.
suffering,
Which
suffering. I mean,
all of us
which
always,
I'd imagine.
we're a very real crew, like casting crew. So people were like, "How was it?" We're like, "Yeah, it was hard. It was hard."
It
But
was hard. It was pretty
but
gruesome.
it makes it worth it. Like we had fun, we laughed, we joked, we all love each other. It is a dysfunctional family, in so many ways, but in like the best ways. But to see all of that makes it like it's like whatever. This is like it's everything to see all
Yeah,
that, and it makes it
totally
so
worth it.
so worth it. So worth it. Yeah, because a lot of people, worked so hard and not sleep for months, literally, just to get this film to where it was in the timeline. And Damien being one of them. So yeah, it's really gratifying. And like I said a million times, it makes it worth it. Yeah.
That's awesome. That's awesome. You know, going through the struggles, it's good for you and for, all the other casting crew to see that it's worth it, that everybody is
Mm.
enjoying it, everyone appreciates it. So, I would like to say thank you. Thank you to the cast, the crew, everybody, production, everyone who has made this possible for every fan out here.
Well, thank
And
you to the fans because the fans also financed the second movie and are the main
yeah,
reason, if not the only reason, we are as big as we are. Because it's
which
like
is which is still insane to
Crazy.
think about sometimes.
It's the only I mean, like, the fact that T2 is, fundraised in over, like, 48 hours on
Mhm.
a crowdfunding, and, I've met people 3 weeks outside of, Terrifier's release in October, and they had seen it 26 times, and they were
Whoa.
planning to go. Yeah, I told them, I said, "Listen, save your money. Wait till it comes out on." I was like, and they had all the tickets. So I was like, just wait till it, like, gets online, but
Yeah.
that's the, people aren't going once, they're going 2, 3 times, 4 times, 26 times,
Yeah.
and that, like, that's why it's all this thing. It's all these things working together beautifully over the course of a decade, and then even before then with Damien, who was working on it for maybe even another decade, living with Art the
Mhm.
Clown in his head. So
Yeah. And
yeah.
it's just so incredible. Like you said, people seeing this multiple times, not even just once, twice, three, people seeing this even six times. And it's not often that I watch movies this many times because I have a very crap attention span. And if a movie doesn't
Yeah.
automatically hook me in, number one, I'm not going to be able to watch it. And if I've already seen it, I'm already bored and I don't want to
Mm.
watch it. But this movie, Terrifier 3, Terrifier 2, all of them I've seen. I can't even count how many times I've
It's
watched.
funny. I just realized as you said that, I was like, I've seen Terrifier 3 5 or 6 times,
Uh-huh.
and I don't usually watch movies that I'm in. I maybe saw the first one like 3 times, over the course of like a decade,
Yeah.
when I was like showing someone something or whatever. Um, but I purposely was watching it when we were doing all these premieres, because we were watching them also in different countries, and I got to see how different audiences around the world were like responding.
Mhm.
But it's actually one film that I watched it again, like I said yesterday, and I actually was like, it wasn't like a film I got bored of, even though I know it, I've been in it, and like I was able to be like, oh, this is interesting, and to acknowledge that's interesting. I never thought of that because I've actually seen it more than I think any other film that I've seen in a long time. So
Wow. I
yeah,
got
yeah,
the I have one more question that I want to ask you
yeah,
before we, wrap things up. You
yeah.
said you started to try and kind of get into horror.
Mm.
Out of any horror movie you've seen so far, maybe it's the originals like, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, Halloween, whatever it is, are there any final girls that you think Victoria Hayes could be pit up against and come out victorious? Any strong final girls?
I haven't been asked that question. That's a good one. Everyone's always like, "What other villain?" And I'm like, "I have no idea." Final Girls. Well, she already got her ass kicked by fucking Sienna, so that's not good. I would love to fight Sienna again, only because I love Lauren and I love
Uh,
Sienna, and I think Vicky really, that's her. That was her other. That was her match. But
her match, yeah.
I mean, I love Final Girls like Ripley from Aliens or Alien,
Mhm.
the Alien franchise, Sigourney Weaver. Um, so probably her. That would be awesome. But I'm trying. I don't know. I'm trying to it's funny, my brain is in Terrifier world, so I'm trying to imagine Vicky outside of that world, like what that would look like.
Yeah.
I'm like, what would Vicky look like outside of Miles County? Oh my goodness, she'd be wild. I feel like that girl has a life. Like she would like take a few years off and then she'd go looking for maybe Sigourney Weaver.
Yeah, I got you. I got you. So, obviously, I really, really appreciate your time. Thank you so much for not only taking the time out of your day to be here and doing this with me, but, just thank you for everything, all the work that you put into the franchise as well. It's so incredible. I'm so honored to share this experience with you. Like it's
Thank you so much for having me on. I'm really glad to be on with you and having this chat. Great.
Well, guys, if you did enjoy this video, then please be sure that you leave a thumbs up and hit that subscribe button. And if you're going to hit that subscribe button, then you might as well click the notification bell as well, because it is literally right there next to that subscribe button. My name is Haydxn. It was a pleasure having you here back on the channel, and I cannot wait to see you guys in the next video. Peace out.